In the year 1892, in a small desert town called Marwin, life was quiet and slow. The townspeople spent their days tending to their animals, trading goods, or sitting in the shade, talking about news that traveled slowly across the sands. But one story reached Marwin that caused a ripple of excitement among its people. It was the tale of a hidden tomb in the middle of the vast desert, a place that had not been seen by human eyes for centuries. According to the rumors, the tomb held a mysterious fire that never died, a flame that glowed day and night, no matter the weather. The story reached a young explorer named Daniel. Through a traveling merchant, Daniel had always been curious and brave. He loved learning about places no one had visited before. When he heard about the tomb, something inside him sparked. He could not stop thinking about it. Daniel lived with his uncle, who was a historian, from a young age. Daniel had listened to stories of ancient civilizations, lost treasures, and brave adventurers. He often imagined himself walking through hidden paths, reading forgotten languages, and discovering secrets the world had long forgotten. The story of the tomb felt like the perfect adventure. He knew it would be dangerous, but that only made him more determined. Daniel began to plan immediately. He knew he could not do it alone. He needed a team of people he could trust, who had the skills necessary to survive the desert and explore the tomb. The first person he approached was Liam, a careful and intelligent mapmaker. Liam had spent years studying maps and reading about desert paths. He could read the stars to find direction, and he had an excellent memory for landmarks. Daniel knew that without Liam, it would be almost impossible to reach the tomb safely. Liam was cautious by nature, always thinking about what could go wrong. When Daniel explained the legend of the tomb and the eternal fire, Liam was hesitant. "We have no clear map," Liam said, "and deserts are dangerous. People have disappeared without a trace. How do we know this tomb even exists?" Daniel smiled and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "I know it is risky, but if we do not try, we will never know. This is a chance to make history. We can prepare carefully and face the challenges together." Liam considered Daniel's words for a long time. He knew Daniel's courage often inspired others, and he decided to join. Hoping that careful planning would protect them. Next, Daniel sought Maya, an expert in ancient languages and inscriptions. Maya was known for her ability to read old scripts and understand symbols that others could not. She was intelligent and curious, always seeking knowledge. When Daniel explained the story of the tomb, Maya's eyes widened. "A fire that never dies," she whispered. "That is impossible, but if the tomb exists, the inscriptions inside could reveal secrets of an ancient civilization." She agreed to join the expedition, knowing her skills would be crucial for understanding the tomb's mysteries. With the team gathered, Daniel, Liam, and Maya began preparations. They collected supplies carefully, knowing the desert could be unforgiving. They packed tents, ropes, food, water, and torches. They studied old maps, some faded and torn, trying to find clues about the tomb's location. Daniel even visited the library in Marwin, searching for ancient texts that might tell stories of the desert and its hidden wonders. The townspeople watched them with curiosity. Some thought the idea was foolish, while others admired their courage. Finally, the day of departure arrived. The sun rose over the desert, painting the sands in golden light. Daniel, Liam, and Maya mounted their camels and set off, following the path marked on the maps and guided by Liam's skill in reading the stars. The desert was quiet at first, with only the sound of hooves and the soft wind. But soon, the challenges of the journey became clear. The sun was scorching during the day, and the heat made their muscles ache. At night, the desert became cold and dark. Strange noises echoed in the distance, making sleep difficult. As they traveled, the explorers began to notice unusual formations in the sand. Large rocks, shaped by wind over centuries, appeared like statues guarding the desert. Shadows stretched long under the moonlight, and sometimes the wind blew in patterns that seemed almost like whispers. Daniel felt the thrill with each strange sight, while Liam carefully noted every detail on his maps. Maya studied the carvings and symbols on stones, trying to understand their meaning. These markings may be warnings, she said one evening, pointing to a line of strange symbols etched into a rock wall. They could be signs left by the people who built the tomb. Despite the harsh conditions, the team's spirits remained high. They shared stories around small fires each night, laughed at small mistakes, and encouraged one another. Daniel reminded them that every step brought them closer to the tomb, and every challenge was part of the adventure. Liam carefully recorded their path, while Maya kept a journal of every symbol, rock formation, and unusual feature they found. After several days of travel, the desert began to change. The dunes became taller, and the sand more difficult to cross. The wind grew stronger, and the nights colder. Yet, the team felt closer to their goal. One morning, after crossing a particularly high dune, Daniel spotted something in the distance. A faint orange glow shimmered above the sand. "Look there," he said, pointing. Could it be the fire? Liam squinted. It could be sunlight reflecting on rocks, he said cautiously. Maya studied the glow. Or it could be a flame. But we need to be careful. The tomb may be near, but the desert may have traps we cannot see. The three explorers shared a determined glance. They knew the journey would only become harder from here. But they also knew they were ready. They had courage, knowledge, and friendship together. They would face whatever the desert and the tomb had in store. The story of the eternal fire was no longer just a rumor. For Daniel, Liam, and Maya, it had become a real adventure and the first step into history. The desert stretched endlessly before Daniel, Liam, and Maya. The sand seemed to move with every gust of wind, creating shapes that shifted as if alive. Each day tested their endurance. The sun burned high in the sky, and the heat made their clothes stick to their skin. Water was precious, and each sip was measured carefully. At night, the temperature dropped sharply, and the explorers wrapped themselves in thick blankets to fight the cold. Yet despite the harsh conditions, their determination never wavered. The thought of the tomb of eternal fire kept them moving. Forward. Daniel led the way, riding his camel steadily across the dunes. He often stopped to scan the horizon, looking for any sign of the tomb or unusual landmarks. Liam followed closely, his notebook open, recording every detail of the landscape. He sketched the patterns of the dunes, the shapes of rocks, and any small plants or animals they encountered. Maya walked beside them, sometimes climbing small rocks to inspect strange carvings or symbols. She studied the shapes carefully, noting which ones seemed like natural formations and which ones were man-made. These symbols could be markers, she said one afternoon. Ancient travelers may have left them to guide people to the tomb or to warn them away. The first real challenge came in the form of a sandstorm. The sky darkened as clouds of fine sand whipped around them. The wind howled like a wild animal, and visibility dropped to almost nothing. Daniel shouted for the team to stay close, and they tied their camels together with ropes to prevent them from running off. The storm lasted for hours, battering them with grains of sand that cut their skin and made it hard to breathe. They found a small depression in the dunes and huddled together, covering their faces with cloths to protect against the sand. Liam checked the maps over and over, worried they might lose their way. Maya whispered a quiet prayer, hoping the storm would pass without serious damage. When the storm finally ended, the desert was eerily calm. The dunes had shifted, and familiar landmarks were buried or moved. Liam felt a wave of worry. "We might have lost our path," he said, examining his notes. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will find it again. The desert is challenging, but we are prepared. Let's continue carefully and observe everything around us." Maya pointed to small, half-buried stones that seemed to form a path. "These might be markers," she said. "The storm may have covered some, but others remain." Following the subtle signs, the team moved forward. Days passed with little rest. They found small oases where they could refill water and rest their tired bodies. At one such oasis, Daniel looked at the horizon and saw cliffs rising in the distance. Their jagged shapes cast long shadows over the sand. "That must be near the tomb," he said, excitement shining in his eyes. Liam nodded. studying the cliffs through his spyglass. The formations are unusual. The tomb may be hidden somewhere between them. Maya's heart beat faster. We are close. I can feel it. The closer they got to the cliffs, the more unusual the desert became. Rocks were covered in strange, ancient carvings. Some looked like people, others like animals, and some symbols no one could understand. Maya carefully examined each marking. These are messages, she said. The people who built the tomb wanted to leave warnings and guidance. We must pay attention. One wrong step could be dangerous. Daniel studied the carvings with awe. They were skilled artisans. Look at the detail. The tomb is not just a place of fire. It is a work of art, a treasure of knowledge. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the desert revealed another challenge. A narrow canyon appeared between two cliffs. The path through it was filled with sharp rocks, and the wind howled through the narrow space, creating strange echoes. Daniel led the way, carefully navigating the camels. Liam followed, checking the footing, and Maya examined the walls, looking for inscriptions or signs of traps. Every step required attention and courage. They knew that one mistake could cause serious harm. While moving through the canyon, Maya noticed a faint orange glow coming from a crack in the cliff wall. She pointed it out to Daniel and Liam. Could it be the fire? She asked. Daniel's eyes widened. It might be. We are very close, but we must remain cautious. The glow could be a natural flame, or it could be a warning for travelers. Liam nodded, his fingers tightening on his notebook. We should take notes of everything and proceed slowly. The tomb may have traps or puzzles to protect it. The explorers made camp near the entrance of the canyon. They were tired, but excitement kept them awake. Around a small fire, they discussed their plan. Tomorrow, we enter the canyon, Daniel said. We will move carefully, observe the walls, and avoid any dangers. Maya unrolled her papers, showing sketches of the carvings she had copied during the day. Liam added his maps, marking the possible path to the tomb. The team worked late into the night, preparing mentally and physically for what lay ahead. That night, as they rested under the star-filled sky, the desert seemed alive. Strange sounds carried on the wind, shadows moved across the sand, and the distant glow from the cliffs flickered. Daniel lay awake, thinking about the tomb. He imagined the eternal fire, hovering above a pedestal, glowing with a calm yet powerful light. He wondered what it would feel like to stand before it, knowing that he had discovered something no one else had seen for centuries. Maya thought of the inscription she would read, the stories they might tell, and the wisdom hidden inside. Liam focused on keeping them safe, planning how to guide the camels and avoid traps. The desert night passed slowly, and the first light of dawn painted the cliffs in gold. The explorers packed their supplies, mounted their camels, and began their journey through the canyon. Each step was careful, each movement deliberate. The carvings along the walls became more intricate as they went deeper. Some symbols were warnings of danger. Others seemed to tell the story of the civilization that had built the tomb. Daniel, Liam, and Maya knew they were not just explorers now. They were students of history, walking through the footsteps of people who had lived centuries before. As they moved forward, the orange glow grew brighter. The air became warmer, and the feeling of approaching something extraordinary filled them with excitement. Daniel whispered, "The tomb is near. We are about to see something no one has seen in hundreds of years." Maya and Liam nodded silently. Their hearts beat fast, a mixture of fear, curiosity, and anticipation. Together, they continued, ready to face the next challenge of the Tomb of Eternal Fire. The canyon grew narrower as Daniel, Liam, and Maya pressed forward. The cliffs on either side towered high above them, casting long shadows over the sand. The orange glow they had seen from a distance became stronger, illuminating parts of the rocky walls with a strange, warm light. The explorers knew that they were close to the Tomb of Eternal Fire, but the closer they got, the more cautious they became. Every step seemed important, every stone potentially hiding a trap. Maya carefully examined the walls of the canyon as they moved. She noticed that many of the carvings were no longer simple pictures. They had grown more complex, with symbols arranged in patterns that seemed to repeat. These symbols tell a story, she said quietly, pointing to a section of the wall. I think they are explaining the dangers ahead. We must pay close attention. Daniel leaned in. Studying the carvings, the images showed figures walking through halls, some falling into pits, others turning away in fear. Liam sketched the carvings into his notebook, noting every detail so they could remember the warnings later. The first obstacle appeared suddenly. A narrow ledge led over a deep pit, the bottom hidden in shadow. The orange glow reflected on the edges of the pit, making it difficult to judge its depth. Daniel tested the ground with a stick. The ledge looked unstable, but with careful steps, it seemed possible to cross. We must move slowly, Daniel said. One mistake and someone could fall. We need to work together. Maya went first, holding the stick in front of her to test each step. Liam followed, his camel tied close behind to keep it from wandering. Daniel went last, steadying both the explorers and their camels as they crossed. After the pit, the canyon opened slightly, revealing more strange formations. Large stones were stacked in unusual patterns, almost like statues. Some resembled animals, others human figures with solemn expressions. The carvings glowed faintly in the light, and the explorers felt a mixture of awe and unease. These must have been important to the people who built the tomb, Maya said. Perhaps guardians, or symbols of protection. Daniel nodded. Whatever they are, they have lasted for centuries. That alone is remarkable. Liam carefully measured the distance between the stones, recording their positions in case the path changed or became dangerous later. As they continued, they found the first signs of human ingenuity designed to protect the tomb. A small passageway led to a chamber, but the floor was covered with a pattern of loose stones. Daniel bent down to examine it. This is a trap, he said. If someone steps on the wrong stone, it could collapse or trigger something dangerous. Maya studied the carvings on the walls. The symbols here warn travelers to step carefully. It is like a puzzle. We must follow the right path or face consequences. Liam counted the stones and traced the patterns with a stick, trying to find a safe route. After careful observation, they managed to cross the chamber safely, marking the path on Liam's map so no one would repeat the mistake. The chamber led to a larger hall, filled with the faint smell of warm air and minerals. The walls glimmered with tiny crystals that reflected the orange glow, making the hall seem alive. Shadows danced across the surfaces, creating images that seemed almost like movement. The explorers paused, letting their eyes adjust. Daniel felt a thrill unlike anything he had ever experienced. This is more than a tomb, he said. It is a masterpiece of architecture and art. Whoever built this had great skill and imagination. Maya nodded. And great knowledge. Look at the carvings. They are teaching us something. But we must be careful. Knowledge is protected here, and danger is part of it. In the center of the hall, they discovered another puzzle. Large stones blocked the path forward, each engraved with symbols that seemed to move in the flickering light. Maya examined the inscriptions, tracing her fingers over the carvings. These stones are a type of lock, she said. The symbols must be arranged in the correct order to open the passage. If we move them incorrectly, it could trigger another trap. Daniel and Liam worked with her, moving the stones slowly and carefully. They tried several combinations, testing their observations of the carvings. Hours passed as they worked together, discussing patterns and checking for hidden mechanisms. Finally, with a soft rumble, the stones shifted and opened a passage leading deeper into the tomb. Beyond the passage, the canyon opened into a wide chamber. The orange glow was stronger here, and the heat of the air was noticeable. The walls were covered with intricate carvings, depicting scenes of fire, people, and strange animals. The explorers felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They were very close to the tomb of eternal fire, but they also knew that danger could appear at any moment. Liam carefully noted the shapes and positions of the carvings, while Maya tried to decipher their meanings. The carvings show the journey of the fire, she said. It is not just a flame. It represents life, wisdom, and protection. Those who built this tomb wanted to teach something important. The explorers noticed another warning. A symbol of a hand with 5 fingers pointed toward the center of the chamber. "This may mean we cannot touch anything carelessly," Daniel said. "We must respect what is ahead. The tomb is not only a treasure, it is sacred." Maya nodded. "We have to move slowly, watch every step, and study every symbol. This is a test of patience and understanding as much as courage." Liam placed markers along the floor, indicating safe paths to avoid traps or dangerous areas. As they approached the heart of the chamber, the orange glow intensified. The temperature rose slightly, and the air felt charged with energy. Daniel felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. "We are very close," he whispered. "I can feel it. The fire must be just ahead." Maya and Liam shared the same feeling. They knew that their next steps could reveal the most incredible discovery of their lives. Before they could advance further, they paused to rest. The journey had been long and difficult, and each of them needed a moment to gather strength. Around a small fire, they discussed their observations. Daniel reviewed Liam's maps and Maya's notes, making sure they understood the patterns and symbols correctly. They shared thoughts about the carvings, the traps, and the strange glow that seemed to grow stronger the deeper they went. Each conversation reminded them of the importance of teamwork, patience, and respect for the tomb they were about to enter. As the sun set outside the canyon, the explorers prepared for the next day. The glow of the chamber grew even brighter in the darkness, reflecting off the walls and casting long, moving shadows. Daniel, Liam, and Maya felt a mixture of excitement and fear. They were on the threshold of something extraordinary. The tomb of eternal fire was near, and they understood that the next steps would bring them face to face with the secrets of an ancient civilization. The night passed slowly, but each of them stayed alert, ready for the adventure that awaited at dawn. The next morning, the desert sun rose slowly over the cliffs, casting long golden shadows across the canyon. Daniel, Liam, and Maya prepared their gear, carefully checking their ropes, torches, and water supplies. Today was the day they would reach the entrance to the tomb of eternal fire. Each of them felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. They knew that the hardest part of the journey lay ahead, and that the tomb would test their courage, intelligence, and teamwork. The explorers moved cautiously through the canyon. The walls were now covered in more intricate carvings than before. Some symbols glowed faintly, as if warning them to proceed carefully. Maya studied them closely, noting small details that might indicate traps or hidden passages. "These carvings are like instructions," she said. "They tell us how to move forward safely. We have to pay attention to everything." Daniel nodded, leading the way slowly, while Liam followed, marking the path and checking for signs of danger. After several hours, they reached a massive stone door at the end of the canyon. The door was enormous, taller than 3 men standing on each other's shoulders. It was engraved with hundreds of symbols, each more detailed than the last. In the center of the door was a circle of stone, with 5 smaller stones arranged around it like a pattern. A faint red-orange glow emanated from the cracks in the door, giving the impression that a fire burned behind it. Daniel took a deep breath. "This is it," he whispered. "The entrance to the tomb." Maya examined the symbols closely. She traced her fingers over the carvings, trying to understand their meaning. "These are instructions," she said. "The stones must be moved in a certain order to open the door. If we make a mistake, it could trigger a trap." Liam knelt beside the door, studying the patterns. He tested the smaller stones carefully, trying to detect hidden mechanisms. "We must work together," he said. "One wrong move and it could be dangerous. We need patience and attention to detail." Daniel nodded. "We will do this carefully. We have come too far to rush now." They began the task of moving the stones, guided by Maya's understanding of the symbols and Liam's careful observation. Each stone required precise alignment. A small groove indicated the correct position, while a hidden mechanism clicked when a stone was placed correctly. Hours passed as they tested and adjusted, carefully noting each movement. Sweat ran down their faces from both concentration and the heat of the desert. Finally, after much trial and error, the massive door began to rumble. Dust fell from the cracks as the stones shifted slowly. The red-orange glow inside grew brighter, and a faint warmth reached the explorers. Daniel stepped back, a smile spreading across his face. "We did it," he said. "The door is opening." Maya and Liam shared his excitement, though their eyes remained cautious. They knew that opening the door was only the beginning of the challenges that awaited inside. As the door slowly swung open, a rush of warm air greeted them. It smelled faintly of minerals and burning stone, but it was not unpleasant. The chamber inside was dimly lit, with the orange glow from hidden crystals reflecting off the walls. The floor was made of polished stone, smooth and cool under their feet. Strange carvings covered every surface, telling stories of people, animals, and fire. The explorers stepped inside carefully, their eyes wide with wonder. The first chamber was silent except for the soft sound of their footsteps. The walls seemed to pulse with light, as if the tomb itself were alive. Daniel moved forward slowly, keeping an eye on the floor for hidden traps. Liam followed, marking their path and observing the walls for signs of danger. Maya paused frequently, studying the carvings and translating the inscriptions. "The tomb was built to protect something very important," she said quietly. "The fire must be more than just a flame. It is a symbol, a treasure of knowledge and life." As they advanced deeper, the challenges became more complex. A series of pressure plates covered the floor and the next chamber. Daniel tested each step carefully with a stick, while Liam observed from the side, noting which stones seemed safe. Maya pointed out symbols on the walls that indicated the correct path. "The symbols match the plates," she said. "We have to follow them exactly. One wrong step could trigger a trap." Moving slowly, step by step, they crossed the chamber without incident. Each successful movement filled them with confidence, but also a growing respect for the intelligence of those who built the tomb. The explorers reached a second chamber, larger than the first, with a high ceiling and walls covered in carvings of fire. The symbols glowed faintly, illuminating the space with a soft orange light. In the center of the room was a pedestal, but it was empty. Daniel approached it cautiously, examining every surface for hidden mechanisms. "This must be part of the puzzle," he said. "Perhaps the fire is beyond this room. We must continue carefully." Liam and Maya agreed, and they moved to the next passage, noting every detail along the way. A final challenge awaited them. The passage narrowed, with walls that sloped inward and a series of steps leading downward. The carvings became more intricate, with symbols that warned of heat, falling stones, and sudden drops. Daniel led the way, stepping lightly and observing each detail. Maya translated the symbols, guiding their movements, while Liam marked safe paths and noted possible dangers. Together, they moved with precision and care, knowing that every step was crucial. Finally, after hours of careful navigation, they reached a chamber that radiated warmth like the heart of the sun. The orange glow was stronger here, filling the space with light. The air shimmered slightly, and the explorers felt a strange energy around them. Daniel, Liam, and Maya paused at the entrance, knowing that the most important discovery was just beyond this point. They exchanged a look of excitement and determination. The tomb of eternal fire had tested their courage, patience, and intelligence, and they had passed. Now, they were ready to face the next stage of the adventure and see the legendary eternal flame for themselves. The explorers stepped cautiously into the heart of the tomb. The chamber they entered was unlike anything they had imagined. The ceiling was high, disappearing into shadows, and the walls were covered with glowing crystals that cast flickering patterns across the floor. The air was warm, but not uncomfortably hot. Every sound they made echoed softly, creating a feeling that the room itself was alive. Daniel, Liam, and Maya stopped for a moment, simply taking in the wonder around them. Maya's eyes moved across the walls, studying the carvings. They told stories of a civilization that revered fire as a symbol of life and knowledge. Humans and animals were shown together, living in harmony with the flames that seemed to guide them. Some carvings depicted rituals of respect for the fire, while others warned of the dangers for those who tried to take it without understanding. The people who built this tomb did not just want to hide the fire, Maya said softly. They wanted to teach. Every carving is a lesson. Daniel moved forward carefully, examining the floor for traps. The stones were smooth, but subtle grooves suggested that pressure plates might still be hidden. He tested each step with a stick before placing his foot down. Liam followed, recording every detail in his notebook, mapping the chamber's layout and the positions of the crystals. The team moved slowly but steadily, understanding that haste could lead to disaster. As they progressed, they noticed small pits hidden in the floor, cleverly disguised to look like part of the design. Daniel pointed them out, and Maya translated inscriptions nearby that confirmed the warnings. These pits are a test, she said. They are not meant to harm carelessly, but to ensure that only those who are patient and careful can proceed. The eternal fire is not for the reckless. Liam nodded, making careful notes for their return journey. In the center of the chamber, they discovered a series of stone platforms arranged in a pattern. Each platform was engraved with symbols that glowed faintly in the light of their torches. Daniel stepped onto the first platform and noticed that it sank slightly under his weight. I think we have to step on these in a certain order, he said. Maya examined the carvings, trying to understand the sequence. The order is shown on the walls, she said. We must follow the story of the fire. Each step represents a part of the lesson the builders wanted to teach. The team worked together, moving carefully from platform to platform. Liam measured distances and confirmed each step's safety, while Maya guided the order based on her translation of the carvings. Daniel kept his eyes on the path ahead, ready to warn them if anything seemed wrong. The process took hours, requiring patience, observation, and teamwork. With each correct step, the glowing symbols brightened slightly, as if encouraging their progress. Finally, they reached the far end of the chamber. The platforms ended, and before them was a small room, separated by a carved stone archway. A faint orange glow emanated from within, stronger than anything they had seen so far. Daniel felt his heart race. This must be the final chamber, he whispered. The fire is here. Maya and Liam exchanged a look of awe. They had imagined this moment for weeks, and now it was real. The explorers entered the smaller chamber with care. The walls were lined with intricate carvings of flames and light, and the orange glow grew brighter as they moved closer to the center. The temperature rose slightly, and the air shimmered with energy. On a stone pedestal in the middle of the room hovered a flame unlike any they had ever seen. It burned with a steady, calm light, bright but not harsh. It did not consume the wood or stones around it. The explorers stopped, captivated by the sight. Daniel stepped forward slowly, careful not to disturb the pedestal or the surrounding carvings. The flame seemed almost alive, dancing gently in the air but never changing its size. Maya studied the inscriptions near the pedestal, tracing the symbols with her fingers. This is the eternal fire, she said softly. It is a symbol of life, knowledge, and balance. The people who built this tomb wanted to protect it, not just as a treasure, but as a guide for humanity. Liam took careful notes, drawing sketches and recording the details of the flame and its pedestal. We must respect it, he said. It is a wonder that has survived centuries. Untouched and undiminished, the chamber was silent except for the soft hum of energy around the flame. Daniel, Liam, and Maya felt a sense of reverence. They had faced deserts, storms, traps, and puzzles, and now they were in the presence of something extraordinary. Daniel reached out his hand slightly, but hesitated. He remembered the warnings in the carvings. The fire was not to be taken recklessly. He withdrew his hand, understanding that some treasures were meant to be observed and respected, not possessed. Maya carefully read more of the inscriptions. They told of the civilization that built the tomb, explaining that fire was a gift of knowledge and wisdom. It could guide humans, inspire them, and teach them to live in harmony with the world. Those who approached it with greed or carelessness would face consequences, but those who approached with respect could learn from it. Daniel and Liam listened, understanding the lesson behind the flame. The explorers spent hours studying the chamber. They documented every detail, making sketches, notes, and measurements. They explored the walls, examining smaller carvings and crystals, and discussed their interpretations of the symbols. Each of them felt a connection to the people who had built the tomb, imagining the care and intelligence required to create such a place. They realized that the eternal fire was not just a flame. It was a message from the past, preserved for those who were willing to learn. As the day passed, the explorers understood something important. They had discovered a treasure, but its value was not only in its beauty or rarity. Its true value was in the knowledge it represented, the lessons it carried, and the inspiration it could provide to those who respected it. Daniel looked at Liam and Maya, seeing the same understanding reflected in their eyes. "We have to share this story," he said, "not just about the fire, but about the lessons it teaches. People must know that knowledge and respect are more valuable than possession." With care, they prepared to leave the chamber. They retraced their steps through the platform puzzle, avoiding the hidden traps and respecting the inscriptions. Each step reminded them of the importance of patience, observation, and cooperation. As they emerged back into the larger chamber, they felt a sense of accomplishment and wonder. The tomb of eternal fire had tested them, but it had also taught them something far greater than they had imagined. Daniel, Liam, and Maya knew that their journey was not just about discovery, but about understanding and respect. The eternal fire continued to burn, a symbol of knowledge and life, preserved for those who were patient and wise enough to reach it. The explorers had learned its lesson, and they carried that lesson with them as they prepared for the next part of their adventure. After hours of observing the eternal fire, Daniel, Liam, and Maya finally took a moment to rest. The warm glow of the flame filled the chamber, reflecting off the walls and casting soft shadows. Their minds were alive with wonder, but also with questions. How had this flame been kept alive for centuries? What secrets did it hold? And most importantly, how could they leave this sacred place without disturbing it? They knew the answers would not come easily, but the journey had taught them patience. Maya moved closer to the inscriptions around the pedestal. She studied the patterns of the symbols carefully, tracing her fingers along the carvings. "These writings tell more than the story of the fire," she said. "They describe the principles of life, the way knowledge should be respected, and the importance of balance. It is a lesson for everyone who comes here." Daniel nodded. He looked at the flame, mesmerized by its steady, calm light. "It is more than just a fire. It feels alive, but gentle." "I understand why it was protected so carefully," Liam recorded every detail of the pedestal, the flame, and the symbols in his notebook, ensuring that they would have a complete record of their discovery. The explorers decided to explore more of the chamber. They moved slowly, careful not to touch anything that might trigger a trap or disturb the delicate balance of the tomb. The walls were covered with smaller alcoves, each containing miniature carvings and crystals that glowed faintly. Some depicted animals, others people, and some seemed to represent abstract ideas like wisdom, patience, and courage. Maya translated each symbol aloud, explaining their meaning to Daniel and Liam. Together, they pieced together the story of the civilization that had built the tomb, realizing that it was far more advanced and thoughtful than they had imagined. As they explored, Daniel noticed a small, hidden passage leading from one side of the chamber. The entrance was partially covered by a crystal formation, making it difficult to see. "This may lead to another part of the tomb," he said quietly. "We should investigate carefully. There could be more to learn about the fire and the people who built this place." Liam and Maya agreed. They approached the passage slowly, testing the floor for traps and examining the walls for warning symbols. Every step was deliberate, every movement cautious. The passage opened into a narrow hallway. The walls were lined with carvings showing the fire being carried through generations, protected by people who understood its importance. The orange glow from the central chamber spilled into the hallway, illuminating the carvings with a soft, warm light. Maya paused frequently to translate the symbols. "These writings emphasize that knowledge is a responsibility," she said. "The fire is not just a treasure. It is a lesson in respect, patience, and wisdom. Those who misuse it will fail, but those who learn from it can benefit forever." Daniel and Liam listened intently, feeling the weight of the message. They realized that their journey was about more than discovery. It was about understanding the lessons left behind by those who came before. Every trap they had avoided, every puzzle they had solved, and every symbol they had read was part of a larger test. The tomb was not simply a place to find a treasure. It was a school of patience, courage, and respect. After exploring the passage, the team returned to the central chamber. They approached the pedestal again. Taking one last careful look at the eternal flame, Daniel felt a mixture of awe and humility. "We have learned so much," he said softly. "This flame has taught us more than any book or story ever could. We must carry its lessons with us when we leave." Maya nodded. "We must respect the tomb and not take anything. The knowledge we gain is the true treasure." Liam agreed. "We can record everything in our notebooks, so others can learn without disturbing the fire. This is how we honor the builders of the tomb." The explorers spent the remainder of the day documenting every detail. They sketched the carvings, wrote notes about the crystal formations, and described the patterns of the flame. They measured distances, recorded the layout of the chambers, and carefully noted any potential hazards for future travelers. Their work was meticulous, ensuring that the tomb's secrets could be shared responsibly without endangering the sacred flame. As evening approached, the explorers prepared to leave the chamber. They retraced their steps through the platform puzzle, crossing the traps and hidden pits with careful attention. Each movement reminded them of the lessons they had learned about patience, observation, and teamwork. The tomb had tested their courage, intelligence, and respect, and they had succeeded. They were no longer just explorers. They were students of history, carrying knowledge that had been preserved for centuries. When they finally reached the main entrance of the tomb, Daniel, Liam, and Maya paused one last time to look back. The glow of the eternal fire shimmered through the cracks in the massive stone door. It was a silent reminder of the wisdom and patience required to reach it. Daniel placed his hand on the door, feeling the energy radiating from within. "We have been privileged to see this," he said. "It is a gift, and we must protect its secret." Maya and Liam nodded in agreement. They understood that the tomb's true power lay not in possession, but in respect and knowledge. The journey back through the canyon was still challenging. The desert was as harsh as before, with heat during the day and cold at night, yet the explorers moved with confidence and care, using the maps and notes they had created to guide their path. Liam's careful observations ensured that they avoided the dangers of hidden pits and unstable rocks. Maya's understanding of the symbols helped them recognize natural markers and warning signs. Daniel's leadership kept the team focused and motivated, reminding them of the importance of patience and teamwork. By the time they emerged from the canyon into the open desert, the sun was high in the sky. The cliffs behind them glowed faintly, as if acknowledging their successful journey. Daniel, Liam, and Maya felt a sense of accomplishment and wonder. They had faced storms, traps, puzzles, and uncertainty, and now they carried with them a knowledge that few in the world had ever seen. They understood that the Tomb of Eternal Fire was not only a marvel of construction, but also a lesson in wisdom, patience, and respect. As they prepared to travel back to Marwan, the explorers reflected on what they had learned. The eternal fire would continue to burn, hidden in the desert, a reminder of the past and a guide for those who approached with respect. Daniel, Liam, and Maya knew that their discovery was extraordinary, but they also knew that the true treasure was the understanding and insight they had gained. They had been tested, they had succeeded, and they had learned that knowledge and respect were more valuable than any physical treasure. The journey back to Marwan was long and exhausting, yet the explorers felt a sense of triumph. Daniel, Liam, and Maya moved carefully through the desert, carrying their notes, sketches, and observations. The heat of the day was relentless, and the nights were cold, but their determination never wavered. Every step reminded them of the lessons they had learned inside the Tomb of Eternal Fire: patience, teamwork, and respect. They knew that their discovery was extraordinary, but they also understood that some secrets were meant to be protected. As they approached the outskirts of Marwan, villagers began to notice the travelers. Curious faces peered from homes and market stalls as the trio passed, covered in dust and carrying their equipment. Word quickly spread that Daniel and his companions had returned from a mysterious expedition deep in the desert. Children ran alongside them, asking questions, and adults watched with awe. Daniel smiled, realizing that their adventure would inspire many, even if they could not reveal the full truth. In the town square, the explorers were welcomed with a small celebration. People brought fresh bread, water, and fruit to honor their safe return. The mayor, an elderly man named Rahim, greeted them warmly. "We heard of your courage and wisdom," Rahim said. "You have ventured where few would dare. Tell us your stories, but remember, some mysteries must remain safe." Daniel bowed respectfully. "We will share what we can," he replied. "The lessons we learn are more important than the details of the tomb itself." Over the next few days, the explorers worked to organize their findings. Liam created detailed maps of their route, marking landmarks, cliffs, and hidden paths. Maya compiled translations of the inscriptions and symbols explaining the teachings of the ancient civilization that had protected the fire. Daniel wrote accounts of their experiences, describing the challenges, the puzzles, and the moments of awe they had felt in the tomb. Together, they created a record that would inspire scholars, adventurers, and townspeople alike while keeping the location of the tomb a carefully guarded secret. Scholars from distant towns arrived to study their notes. They marveled at the accuracy and depth of the records. Impressed by the explorers' careful observations, many asked questions about the tomb, the eternal fire, and the civilization that had built it. Daniel, Liam, and Maya answered thoughtfully, emphasizing the lessons of patience, respect, and understanding. "The tomb is not just a place of wonder," Daniel explained. "It is a school of wisdom. The eternal fire teaches us that knowledge must be protected, not stolen, and that courage and patience are always rewarded." The trio also worked to teach younger explorers and villagers. They held small lessons in the town square, demonstrating basic map-making, safe travel through the desert, and methods for studying ancient symbols. Children gathered eagerly, listening to stories of the tomb, the traps, and the puzzles they had solved. Daniel emphasized that curiosity must always be balanced with respect and caution. "Adventure is exciting," he told them, "but wisdom makes it meaningful. Always observe, always learn, and never take more than what is needed." As months passed, Daniel, Liam, and Maya became legends in Marwan and beyond. Travelers and adventurers spoke of their bravery, and their notes were studied in distant schools and libraries. Yet, despite the fame, the explorers remained humble. They never revealed the exact location of the Tomb of Eternal Fire, understanding that some wonders were meant to remain hidden, safe from greed and carelessness. They knew that the true power of the tomb was not in the flame itself, but in the lessons it imparted. One evening, as the sun set over Marwan, Daniel, Liam, and Maya gathered at the edge of the desert. The sky was painted with orange and pink hues, reflecting the eternal fire they had witnessed. "Do you think we will ever return?" Liam asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "Perhaps not," he said. "Some places are meant to remain mysteries. Our journey was about learning, not possession. We have carried the lessons in our hearts, and that is enough." Maya nodded. "The tomb will continue to shine for those who respect it. We have done our part by understanding and recording its wisdom." In the years that followed, the explorers continued their work. They traveled to other parts of the world, sharing knowledge, teaching others, and inspiring new generations of adventurers. Yet the memory of the tomb and the eternal fire remained with them always. Daniel often thought of the glowing flame, hovering above the pedestal, calm and steady. Liam remembered the delicate crystals and intricate carvings. Maya cherished the teachings that had guided them safely through the challenges. Together, they carried the tomb's wisdom into every new journey. The story of the Tomb of Eternal Fire became more than a tale of adventure. It was a story of courage, intelligence, and respect. It reminded people that some treasures are meant to teach rather than to be owned. It inspired explorers to seek knowledge responsibly, to face challenges with patience, and to value wisdom above gold or fame. Daniel, Liam, and Maya's journey showed that the greatest discoveries are not always what you can hold, but what you can learn. And so, the tomb remained hidden in the desert, its eternal flame glowing as it had for centuries. Only those who approached with respect, patience, and understanding could hope to glimpse its wonders. Daniel, Liam, and Maya had experienced the tomb, learned its lessons, and returned to share its wisdom. They had proven that courage and knowledge, tempered by respect, were the true keys to discovery. The desert kept its secret well, but the lessons of the eternal fire spread far and wide, lighting the minds and hearts of all who heard the story. The legacy of the tomb of eternal fire lived on, not in gold or treasure, but in the hearts of those who understood that some wonders are eternal because they are meant to inspire, teach, and guide. The explorers had done more than find a hidden flame. They had found the meaning of wisdom itself, and in doing so, they became part of history.